to another episode of Project Amberlight. I thought I would talk a little bit this week about some of the decisions and choices that we made because everything happened so quickly and was happening in the moment. I didn't really stop and sort of explain myself. So I thought I'd go back and just talk about some of the choices and decisions that we made to get to where we are now, because we haven't started editing, and I thought I still want to keep doing the vlogs, so what can I talk about? I talk about why we did what we did. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the some of the decisions that I made, like in writing the script, to make life easier for myself. The advice I was given was try and tell a small story deeply rather than tell a broad story in a short film, that is. Like, try and tell a small story well. Like, you could, in a short film, if you tell the story of one night that something happens between two people, you're probably going to do a better job of that than trying to tell a story that's got 5 locations and 20 casts or something like that. You're not going to do the best job with the resources that you can get your hands on. But that's why most of the action takes place in one location. And it did not make life easier because we started shooting on the Wednesday. So we had 2 locations, one interior, one exterior on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we shot at a police station, and then the rest of the time we were all in one place, and it was good because it was indoors, so it was sort of it was an environment that we could manage. Because the last thing you want to do is be outside, and you don't know if you can manage noise, if you can manage weather, if you can manage like people looky-loos. Oh, what are you doing? So that was the thinking behind that. What else? Oh, and then another decision, which wasn't mine, but was to shoot day for night, because originally I was thinking, right, I want this all to happen at night. But that's hard. Night shoots are hard because, most of the time DPs are like trying to control light, but with a night shoot, you're having to introduce it all, and that can be a challenge. So we went, and me and the DP, we recce'd the location, and I said this in one of the previous blogs, but he just went, well, this is perfect for day for night. And I was thinking, when he said day for night, I was just thinking of those like crummy westerns that you used to see, where you like, that is totally like middle of the afternoon, they're trying to make it look like night. You can just sort of tell. But he did a couple of things on his phone, and he showed me how you do it, and I mean that was just on the phone as well. Obviously we weren't shooting on the phone, but he was giving me an idea of how you make something look a bit blue, you reduce the exposure, and then it starts to look like nighttime. And if you're indoors, then you can manage the light much better. And it saved us such a headache, because when we were talking about trying to light this apartment, we were talking about having to get lights on the opposite building, and then you've got to get power sources to all those lights, and or just a nightmare. Like trying to sort of simulate moonlight at night is actually a lot harder than I thought it was. So when he suggested day for night, that solved a lot of problems, and it looked great. We haven't started editing yet, but I think it's gonna work. So that was a really good choice. Not mine, DP's. He knows what he's doing. The other decision that I made quite early on was getting certain crew members in place that not all short films have, but I would suggest that, I just remember something else. I'm writing it down so I don't forget to tell you about that as well. But I would suggest actually that there's quite a few crew members that I had that maybe not everybody does, and I think it's a good idea to. First AD, job is to keep everybody on track, or keep the director on track. And, I'm just thinking back to when I started adding shots, and James was like, okay, that isn't on the list, fine. But his job was to make sure that we made the day. We got everything that we planned to get. So, as the directors want is, you're going to go, oh, but what if we set up a crane? And what if we, who's got a drone? Let's do a shot with a drone. And he's going, okay, well, you can do the shot with a drone, but then you can kiss goodbye to that whole scene that you were going to shoot in the afternoon. So you're like, okay, all right, scrap the drone. So his job is to basically keep everybody on track. I think that's a really important person to have on set, because as a director, you want to just be throwing yourself into making the thing. You don't want to be thinking, what time should we be breaking, or what should we be moving on? So that's, I think, an important person to have. Script supervisor is the editor's best friend. You've got to have that. Unless you're just shooting something really, really simple, the script supervisor is making notes of everything. They're watching the continuity, make sure the actor gets their lines right, or reminds the actor what the lines are if the actor's choosing to, So all that sort of stuff. And it's just another pair of eyes looking, because I've noticed the stuff that I've directed previously, it doesn't matter how much you're looking at the frame, sometimes you just miss something. You don't see that there's a camera battery in the background, or the person's tie is done the wrong way or whatever. So the script supervisor was brilliant for that. The other crew person that I thought was really important to have, well, first of all, first person I should have said was the producer, actually, because our producer, I mean, it was just, I couldn't have done it without her, because she was producers. I mean, there's lots of different classifications or whatever of producer. There's executive producers, and there's associate producers, co-producers, blah blah. Our producer was the person who brought this thing into being and just kept track of all the logistics of stuff. And she definitely did more than is normally expected of a producer, because we had a limited crew. Like, we didn't have a location manager, so she was scouting for locations and things like that. But she was the one that made the thing happen. So definitely, I would say, if you can, get someone to produce it, and somebody who really gravitates to that sort of role, because it's the sort of person who's got to be able to generate something out of nothing, is really good with people, is good with numbers as well, and just like lists and keeping track of things and contracts and all that sort of stuff, because she did all that, and that made a huge difference. What else? Oh, and then also an interesting one that we had was a production photographer. Now, our production photographer, he was a friend of mine. He is a friend of mine, and unless something I don't know, So he's a friend of mine, and so we talked about him not just taking stills from moments in the scenes, but behind the scenes photography, little interviews with the cast and crew, and yeah, just being around to sort of capture the spirit of the whole thing. And I think that was a really good thing to do, if I do say so myself, because like, I just look back and over the stills, and he's got some beautiful shots, not only of the actors doing their thing, but also of the crew doing their thing, downtime, little moments when they think nobody's watching. The last thing I did when I did the film school thing, I was a bit sort of like disappointed that I didn't have any of that stuff to remember it by. And it's quite handy having like photos of you directing stuff. It's quite good, like having photos of you on the job sort of thing. So that, I think, was a really good thing to do. Another decision I made that I thought helped the production was having a rehearsal with the actors. Obviously, we had the fight rehearsal because we had to have that for safety and for authenticity as well. But I think it was really good to sit down we did 2 days actually, with a little bit of wardrobe fitting in between, but 2 days with the actors of just going through the script and just breaking it down and just talking about the characters and the world and the themes and I don't think we talked about themes. That sounds a bit grown up. We just talked through the whole thing so that they got to know each other, because I think that's really important. They got to have a rapport, because even though the characters don't know each other in the story, it's good for them to just have that rapport that they can trust each other. So I thought that was really good, and I loved it. That was, I mean, for me, that's the most fun part of the whole experience. The spreadsheets about lunch and budgets, not so much fun. Yeah, the final decision that I wanted to talk about was the route that we were going to go with once the film was completed. So, obviously, once you finish a film, you've got to decide what you want to do with it. The dream, for me, would be to sell it, to see it on different platforms. Not about making the money back, but just, it feels like validating to just have made something that's saleable. But the other thing as well is it'd be really cool to get recognition for it. That it would be good enough to get into festivals or to win awards or whatever. So that means I have to come up with a strategy, basically, for festivals. That means the first time I did festivals with Brit I just applied for not every single festival, because there's literally thousands of festivals. I applied for a lot of festivals, and I got into some, but I didn't realise that if you premiere in one festival and a bigger festival wants you, if you don't offer them a premiere of some nature, i.e. world, America, Europe, London, whatever, then they're not interested. So you've got to actually manage, like, when you make your applications. You can't just like scattergun it, which is what I did. I hope that Amber's good enough to make it into a big decent festival, and that's my goal. So I'm going to start with those. In my mind, I'm breaking them up into 3 tiers. So I've got my top tier: Sundance, Tribeca, South by Southwest, Telluride, London Film Festival, mid-range festivals. I can't even think of any right now. Oh, like Newport and New Orleans and other ones that I can't think of right now. Maybe the lower end festivals and the smaller cities. I don't want to offend anybody, but like, there's definitely a hierarchy, because getting into Sundance is not the same as getting into, I'm not going to name the festival, because they'll be like, well, bitch, you ain't coming into our festival. Let's not kid ourselves. So that's the plan. So yeah, I just thought I'd speak a little. Yes. Yeah. Thanks for watching. There'll be another Project Amberlight next week.